Morning. So we are going to do something really, really fun today. This is probably one of my favorite science experiments. I don't know. I just always have a lot of fun doing this one. So we are going to make paper today. Yes, we're going to learn a little bit about recycling and we are going to make paper. Okay, and we just always have so much fun doing this. And then once we do it, we just make all kinds once we know how to make the paper. So let's go back in time a little bit when we first started um, learning about paper and how we have it everywhere. I taught you a little something about cellulose, okay? Cellulose is the fiber that's found in wood, right? And the wood that comes from the tree. So trees are super, super important, right? And when you take that wood and you chop it up and you boil it and you thresh it and you beat it up and you mix it and shake it and everything, the cellulose fibers separate from the wood particles and it creates a pulp. Okay? What we're gonna do today is we're going to make pulp, okay? And we're gonna do it in a really easy way. So, but I want to talk to you about like why would we want to do this, right? Why would we want to make paper? All right. Sometimes kids don't understand that. So I want to ask you, where does paper come from? Wood. Where does wood come from? Trees. So if people never, ever, ever recycled, which means take something old and turn it new again, if people never did that, what would happen to our trees? Yes, they would cut down a lot more trees. I mean, we already cut down a lot of trees. But if we never recycled paper, like ever, we would cut down so many more trees. A lot of the paper that you've already been playing with, the chipboard, the newsprint, the tag board, all of that paper is made out of recycled paper. When we looked really closely at that paper under the magnifying glass or with your cell phone zoom, you could see all the little fibers, but then you could also see different colors, maybe, especially in the chipboard. Now, the chipboard is the paper that is like what a cereal box is made out of, right? So cereal boxes have all kinds of colors and prints and everything all over them. Well, when people recycle cereal boxes, what the people at the recycling center do is they take all of those cereal boxes and they get them wet. Then they start to boil and they start to thrash them around, right? And then that turns those cereal boxes back into the pulp that you originally got from the wood. Okay? But sometimes those little bits of color stay. So that's why sometimes if you look at your chipboard, hopefully you still have it. If you don't, that's okay. I know we submerged it in water. But if you decided to keep it and to dry it, you will see a little flecks of, yellow or blue or whatever in that chipboard because those papers are made out of recycled paper. Okay? Yes, all that paper originally came from a tree, but it's really important to recycle. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take something, well, it's kind of a funny twist what we're going to do today. But anyway, you're going to learn the importance of recycling. So, what you are going to need for today's experiment is your screen, your bowl, your bottle, a piece of paper towel, about I would say about 10 squares of toilet tissue. Now, if you have like really, really thick toilet tissue, like Charmin or, I don't know, Angel Soft or whatever, that really thick kind, you probably only need like 4 or 5 pieces. But if you get the cheap kind like I do, really thin toilet tissue, you're going to need about 10 squares of toilet paper. Yes, toilet paper. Now, I know I said I'm recycling today. Of course, we would never, ever, ever really in real life recycle toilet paper because that's just gross. But this is clean toilet paper. And the reason why we choose toilet paper to recycle because it will only take me about 3 minutes to get this turned back into pulp. Whereas if I used newspaper or chipboard, I would have to boil it and mix it and all of that stuff, and that just takes forever. That's why certain papers are good for certain things. This is good for cleaning up after we do our business because we put it in the toilet, which is full of water, and then you're going to see what happens to it. And that's why our plumbing doesn't get all disgusting and clogged up, okay? So certain papers are good for certain things, and toilet paper has its use, but we would never actually recycle toilet paper. Just remember that. You can recycle newspaper, you can recycle tag board, you can recycle chipboard, you can recycle all kinds of papers, but just for today's experiment, we are going to figure out how to get pulp from toilet paper. So, yes, you will need those things. If you do not have them, pause this video and go get them now. Beautiful. You are back. Okay, so I am in my room today because there's a whole bunch of people out in my kitchen. And so I've got, oh, you will also need some water. I just put it in a water bottle, but if you want to fill this about, 2/3 of the way full with water, that's perfect. All right, so here we go. You are going to take your bottle. You probably already did this because I just told you to do it, so now I gotta do it. But we're gonna make sure you follow directions anyway. About 2/3 of the way full. Okay. And then you're going to take your toilet tissue. And I broke them apart some, and I kept some, not broken apart. And we're going to stuff it in there. Okay, stuff it, stuff it, stuff it. I probably have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I probably have 10 to 12. But I have like the, Cheap Scott brand or whatever. So if you have Charmin or one of those fancier toilet tissues, you don't need as much because those are really thick. Alright, so I am just going to stuff all of these babies into my bottle. And then, and you might have noticed that if you submerged tissue, facial tissue, in your water the other night, you may have already seen a little bit of this pulp action happening because certain facial tissues actually get kind of pulpy real quick. All right, so now I have my toilet paper, the toilet tissue in the water, and you're going to put the lid on nice and tight, and then we're going to shake, 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 shake. And you got to do this for about 3 to 5 minutes, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and come back in about 3 to 5 minutes. All right, good stuff, kids. I'm just gonna make sure I've got this shaken really good because I had another one pre-made, but now it's been sitting here for a little while, so I'm just gonna. Okay, so now what you're gonna do is you are going to take your now pulp that is no longer toilet paper. Now it is back to the pulp stage. Okay? And you're going to pour it into, and yeah, it'll get a little bit, you can squeeze this bottle and it will, yeah, make lovely noises and it'll come out. Okay, so this is what you would be floating at the top of the water if you were doing this with wood, okay, and wood chips. This is the pulp that would eventually float to the top after thrashing and cooking and boiling and mixing and stirring. And this pulpy mixture this is the cellulose mixture basically that would come up. And all we've done is we've reversed the process, right? We just had toilet paper, now we have pulp, okay? We're basically going to turn it back into toilet paper, but whatever. So now we're going to just kind of yeah, it's gross. It feels really wet and slimy, but this is you kids play with slime all the time, so I don't want to hear it. Okay. So you're going to kind of just push it and squeeze as much of the water out of it as you can by pushing it down. See, all my water is just kind of slowly dripping down into the container. And then if you have a sponge works better. I forgot to bring a sponge home from school on Tuesday, so we're just going to kind of pat this. I'm patting it with paper towel. See, this would take me about 10 to 15 minutes of shaking to get broken down into pulp again, because this is a much stronger paper. I do buy Bounty, so Bounty is the nice stuff. But so that would take a lot longer than obviously toilet paper. And so then when you are done, this is going to be tricky in this room. Okay. When you are done, you're going to lay another piece of paper towel down on your table. And you're going to take your paper out. Okay. And I've already got my paper in front of me, right? And you can do this on a piece of paper towel, or you can do it on a paper plate or whatever. All right, so you're going to put it onto the paper plate, and then you're going to use this as like a rolling pin, and you're going to roll it, and you're going to squeeze as much of that water out as you can. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to squeeze. I'm pushing down. I'm rolling it. I'm rolling it like this. Rolling it and rolling it. You want to get your paper pretty flat. Like, spread it out as much as you can. That was 10 squares of toilet paper in that. So the thinner you get your paper, the more the pulp, the more realistic your paper will look. All right. And this paper is going to be, once it dries, you're actually going to be able to write on it. You're going to be able to cut it. You'll be able to use it just like paper. If you get it thin enough, which I have seen some kids do get it like paper thin. They were even able to like fold it and stuff. So roll it out, but you don't want holes in it, okay? So you're just going to have to be careful. Because you do not want to push it so much that you're going to get holes in it. Alright, so here's like what I've got going right now. It's actually pretty thin. I could probably get it a little bit thinner, but I'd want to do it on a plate or something. And now I've got a lot of the water out though. And so I probably could have mixed this, shaken it a little longer too. But now we're going to need to let this dry. Okay? We're going to need to let this dry. So put it back on your paper towel or your paper plate, or if you had it on maybe a little piece of wax paper or whatever, you're going to have to let that dry. So, again, I'm going to say we would never recycle toilet paper, okay? But let's just pretend that was pieces of newspaper that we stuck into this bottle, okay? Now we know that newspaper's pretty sturdy stuff. I mean, it's submerged in water for a complete night, and then it came out and it was fine. All I had to do is dry it and it's newspaper again, okay? Now I could take newspaper and shake it, and eventually get it back into pulp, but it would take a long time. So we recycle to do what? Right. We recycle to limit the amount of trees that we have to cut down. Okay? Paper comes from wood. Wood comes from trees. Have to save our trees. So we need to recycle. And this is one way we can do it. Okay? We can take old paper, turn it back into pulp, and create something new out of it. People do it all the time. So, I hope, let me see, was there something else I wanted to ask you? Nope, I can't ask you that until it's dried. So, yeah. This is probably going to take all night to dry. Maybe even a little longer, depending on how warm your house is. I keep my house pretty cool, so it might take a little bit longer. But, yeah. Once you have it dry, tomorrow, what I want you to do, or tomorrow evening even, is I would like you to write your name on it. Because like I said, you're going to be able to write on it. Maybe draw a little picture on it. Okay? And then tape it into your science notebook. And here is your question for your science notebook. Are you ready? How can new paper be made from old paper? That's your question for your science notebook. How can new paper be made from old paper? We just did it. All right. So I hope you had fun with this. I can't wait to see what your paper turned out like. And, I also want to tell you one thing, that last year my daughter, Skyla, made this, but she put a little paint inside. And so she ended up with like different colored papers, which was, I will say, pretty awesome. Was it paint? It wasn't watercolor paint because that wouldn't work. It was paint or ink? I think it was paint, acrylic paint. Yeah, well anyway, she made the whole rainbow of paper. And yeah, it was pretty cute. So you could try that too. Give it a go. But do it like this first with the white so I can see it. All right, have fun. Bye.